Okay, so today what I'm going to be showing you guys is this competitive intel gathering system that I created. And in essence, what it does is it looks through possible feature pages and news sites of said company. And I'll show you guys what the input is to get this output per company. That's showing the key features of the company, source URL, latest news summary, and latest news links. So we can see that there are two main inputs, that being the competitor master list and the news endpoints, right? And there's a couple things in here that's just fine tuning, that being the service type, which just allows us more specificity when we're prompting the AI, and then also the format. And the reason we have the format is because if it's an external newsroom, then we need to allow for external news sites beyond the base domain. We have a couple more things down here. Known articles, I just had this in for validation purposes, not necessary anymore. And then article patterns and non-article patterns. Okay, so how I'm going to show you guys the mechanisms of my system is just through following the data. So I have a Google Doc here that sort of shows the data flow. And we start in our main file, the Intel Scraper file. And the first thing it does is we load all of our inputs from the input configuration file that I just showed you guys. And next is when we actually start building the competitor intel. And that's when we run into our first problem. Why am I gathering information on company X first with a delay? So this was actually one of my main pain points. One company in particular would not give me an up-to-date version of their website unless I simulated mouse movements. And I also thought that the website was reading the fact that I was loading it synchronously with the other 11. So following that, I loaded it alone. But I'm now realizing that the problem might not have been loading the website synchronously, but rather the simulation of mouse movement that I was doing was no longer working when I was loading all 12 websites. And I did not come across the solution to that as easily as it sounds. Now we're getting into the fun stuff. We're now out of our first file because the process single competitor function is now pulling data from the straight features file. The goal of this file is to gather information on competitor features, obviously. Okay, so can we just read the HTML file from the main webpage and get enough information? I found that there wasn't enough. Obviously, we need to branch out to feature pages. How do we filter through the feature pages? So I tried just letting AI read through the HTML. That didn't work. I tried passing just a full list of URLs from the homepage. That didn't work. I tried using heuristics even before AI. Okay, if it has a product tag and it branches out from there to different solutions and different specific features, then that's going to be your base page, and those are going to be the specific feature pages. That wasn't as generalizable as I would have liked. So what I ended up doing was taking the list of URLs from the HTML and also combining that with the reference tags and passing that information into the AI. And it ended up giving us a pretty great list of feature pages. Here we go. This was the most time-consuming problem that I faced, was to get latest news function. So all I had to do was find the top 3 news links of the company. And it proved a lot harder than I thought. How can we read from the back end what the top 3 URLs are? From a human perspective, it's very easy. We can visually see it right there. So you can see the different methods that I tried. I tried, the heuristic approach, and I tried doing the same thing I did with the get features function. But the problem was the AI can't tell what a news page is. With a feature page, it's easy to tell what's a feature, what's not a feature, or easier. But the news could be about features or products or anything about the company. So it was difficult for the AI to distinguish. What I ended up doing is, okay, then let's actually look from the human point of view. So I implement a headless browser and I load each link with the X and Y position because Playwright allows me to do that. And I pass that into the AI. Now the AI knows, here are my list of URLs, here is the X and Y position. Let's go down from the top Y value and then left to right from the left X value. And this is how I need to rank my websites. And that ended up working. Also allowed here for a little bit of hard coding. This is where the non-article patterns come into play. The output of our get features function consisted of 11 cleaned HTML pages, but before we synthesize the data, there needs to be another simplification step, and that is the summarize all pages function. And all we're doing here is taking the cleaned HTML file of all the 11 pages and summarizing that into 3 sentences before we pass it again through the AI. On to the final synthesis. All we have to do here is take our feature summaries and our news articles, pass it into Gemini once more, read the JSON just in case, and override the source URL, and make sure Gemini didn't hallucinate any links, and we have our output. In total, there are around 150 calls to Gemini throughout the process, and I thought I'd show you guys what the output looks like compared to what's actually on the website. So we have Project AI Guardian, Recon, and Layer, and let's click on the source URL here. And if we check out their platform, Guardian, Recon, and Layer are their main products. If we click in here, we can see Guardian scans 35 different model formats, and then we go back into our output and see here, it's pulling straight from the website, scanning over 35 model formats. I've double checked to make sure there's no hallucination or anything of the sort, and we're getting real data. That's the whole point. And yeah, thank you for watching.